The valley had no mercy for the weak. Cold winds swept across the land like whispers of warning, bending trees and rattling anything that wasn't strong enough to stand its ground. And yet, in the middle of that unforgiving emptiness, stood a girl with splintered hands and unbreakable will, Mei Lin. She lifted a cracked wooden board, her fingers trembling from exhaustion. The wood was uneven, eaten by time, barely worth using, but she had no choice. Every piece of her cabin came from scraps. Discarded fences, broken carts, anything she could find. Because no one had given her anything. Not when she arrived. Not after. 3 months ago, Mei Lin had stepped into the town with quiet hope in her eyes. But hope didn't last long there. People stared. Some whispered. Others laughed openly. A girl like her won't survive the winter, one man had said. Give her a week, another replied. But they were wrong. She was still here, still fighting, still building, even if her cabin leaned like it might fall apart at any moment. That afternoon, the sky darkened with heavy clouds. A storm was coming. Mei Lin knew it. Her breath quickened as she tried to fix the front wall, hammering nails into weak wood that barely held together. The wind picked up, howling through the gaps in the structure. Just a little more, she whispered to herself. But the board slipped. Crack! It fell, hitting the ground with a sharp sound. Mei Lin froze. Not because of the board, but because she wasn't alone anymore. Slow, steady footsteps approached behind her. She turned. A tall rancher stood there, silent, watching. His presence felt solid, like the land itself. His coat was worn, his boots covered in dust, and his face shadowed beneath a wide hat. But what truly caught her breath was the wagon behind him, filled with fresh lumber, strong, straight, perfect wood, the kind she had only dreamed of. They stared at each other. You planning to survive the storm in that? He finally asked, his voice calm but direct. Mei Lin straightened her posture. Yes. He glanced at the leaning structure. That won't hold. Her jaw tightened. It will. For a moment, silence. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Not mockingly, respectfully. You've got courage, he said. He stepped forward, picked up one of her broken boards, and snapped it in half with ease. But courage needs something to stand on. Mei Lin crossed her arms. I didn't ask for help. The rancher nodded once, as if he understood. Good, he said. Then he turned around, walked back to his wagon, and lifted a heavy beam of fresh pine. He brought it over and dropped it beside her. Because I wasn't asking either. Mei Lin blinked, stunned. I'm Daniel, he said, already reaching for tools. She hesitated, then answered softly, Mei Lin. And just like that, everything changed. They worked through the storm. Rain began to fall, soaking the ground. But Daniel didn't stop, and neither did Mei Lin. He measured wood carefully, showing her how to reinforce the foundation. She followed, learning quickly, adjusting, improving. He didn't treat her like she was weak. He treated her like she was capable. And that meant more than anything. Thunder roared above them as they secured the first solid wall. This beam goes here, Daniel said. Mei Lin lifted it with him, her arms shaking, but she didn't let go. Like this? She asked. Exactly. Their hands brushed for a moment. Both paused, then quickly returned to work. Days turned into a rhythm. Morning light, hammering wood, shared silence. Daniel came back every day, always with more lumber, always with quiet determination. He never asked for anything in return. And slowly, Mei Lin stopped refusing his help. One evening, as the sky glowed orange, they sat side by side on a half-built porch. Why help me? Mei Lin asked softly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out across the valley. Because I know what it's like, he finally said. She turned to him. To build something alone, he added, and watch people bet against you. Mei Lin's voice dropped. They still do. Daniel gave a small nod. Let them. He looked at her then, directly. We'll prove them wrong. The cabin began to take shape. Strong beams replaced weak boards. A real roof covered them from the rain. Windows allowed sunlight to pour inside. And with every nail driven into place, Mei Lin felt something inside her healing. But not everything was easy. One afternoon, as she walked into town for supplies, the same voices returned. You're still here? Someone scoffed. She's got help now, another sneered. Figures. Mei Lin lowered her gaze, gripping her basket tightly. You think that rancher will stay? A woman laughed. Men like him don't stick around for girls like you. The words cut deeper than she expected. That evening, she worked in silence. Colder than before. More distant. Daniel noticed. What happened? He asked. Nothing, she replied quickly. He studied her for a moment, then said quietly, You don't have to carry everything alone anymore. Her eyes stung. They're right, she whispered. People don't stay. Daniel stepped closer. I do. Just 2 words. Simple. But they held weight. Days passed again. The cabin was nearly complete. Only the final touches remained. A door. A porch railing. A place to finally call home. One evening, Daniel arrived later than usual. Mei Lin waited, pacing slightly. When he finally appeared, something felt different. He looked uncertain. I need to tell you something, he said. Her chest tightened. I might have to leave for a while, he continued. There's work north of here. Important work. The world seemed to pause. Oh, she said quietly. I'll come back, he added quickly. But doubt had already crept in. Mei Lin forced a small nod. Of course. That night she couldn't sleep. The cabin suddenly felt empty, even though it wasn't finished yet. The next morning, Daniel didn't come. Or the next. Or the next. The silence returned. Heavy, painful. Mei Lin kept working, but it wasn't the same. Each hammer strike felt hollow. Each step heavier. He's not coming back, the voices echoed in her mind. But she refused to stop. Because this time, she wasn't building just to survive. She was building for herself. A week later, the final board was placed. The cabin stood complete. Strong, beautiful, real. Mei Lin stood on the porch staring at what she had built. Alone, or so she thought. Behind her, footsteps, familiar ones. She turned. Daniel stood there, dusty, tired, but smiling. I told you I'd come back. Her breath caught. You left, she said softly. I had to, he replied. But not for long. He stepped closer. I wasn't sure if you'd still be here. Mei Lin looked at the cabin, then back at him. I finished it, she said. I see that, he smiled. It's stronger than anything in this valley. She shook her head gently. No, she said. Then meeting his eyes, I am. Silence. Then Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A simple key. For the door, he said. I thought you might need one. Mei Lin took it slowly. Her fingers brushed his. And this time, neither pulled away. The wind still blew across the valley. Storms still came and went. But the cabin never fell. Because it wasn't built from broken boards anymore. It was built with strength, patience, and something even stronger than wood. Love. Not loud, not rushed, but steady, like the man who brought it, and the woman who turned it into a home.